Good afternoon. Welcome to Calgary Economic Development's annual report to the community. I can't believe how many of you are here. It's great to see everybody. My name is Robin Buse, and I am the Vice President of Business Development at CED. I'm happy to be your MC today as we report on our achievements from 2018 and to give you a sense of the forces that are shaping our city's future. And I'm not talking about the Flames blowing the doors off the competition and sitting in second place in the NHL, or even Bo Levi Mitchell signing a new 4-year contract with the Stamps. The fact that Bo left money on the table by turning down both the Riders and the Argos to stay in Calgary because he loves this city says a lot. And some of you, I imagine some of you have made similar decisions with your families in the past few years. And I'm talking about, of course, staying in Calgary and fighting to continue to make this a great city, not where you might be a quarterback in the CFL. Before we get underway, I want to extend a special thank you to the Indigenous peoples of the Treaty 7, whose land we stand on today, and to the Métis of Alberta, Region 3, who share a deep connection with this land. Facilitating important discussions around the economic issues that impact Calgary is one of the things we do at Calgary Economic Development. And today, we're pleased to be able to host 3 distinguished guests who will speak to the 4 pillars of the economic strategy titled Calgary and the New Economy: talent, place, business, and the environment. These panelists include Dr. Catherine Laughlin, who is the city doctor and a trailblazer in the science of placemaking; Scott Gravel, co-founder and CEO of Calgary tech company Adabotics; Amy Blanchette, manager of partnership services within approvals coordination at the City of Calgary; and Calgary Economic Development's own president and CEO, Mary Moran. We want to extend today's conversation to social media, of course, so please add your comments to the discussion outline online using hashtag YYCRTC. We have a very busy agenda, so let me explain how the next 2 hours or so are going to unfold. Mary will take about 15 minutes to review CED's 2018 accomplishments and to give you an idea of what's ahead of us. Court Ellingson, Vice President of Research and Strategy for CED, will then introduce our other 3 panelists, who will make brief remarks about their respective areas before Court leads them, along with Mary, through a discussion on the 4 pillars of the economic strategy. Our final task, which I know will excite you all, will be to give away 2 tickets anywhere Westjet airline flies in North America. So just think you could be on a flight out of this cold snap by tonight. There was a fishbowl in the lobby for your business cards. CED staff are passing through the aisles so we can pick up any cards we may have missed. We want to extend our very sincere appreciation to Westjet Airlines for being the longtime title sponsor for the report to the community, and to thank our other sponsors, Postmedia, Alberta Blue Cross, the University of Calgary. We literally could not do this without them. And we'd also like to acknowledge and thank our Action Calgary partners. They support the work we do every day, both financially and through their thought leadership. If you want to be part of the team driving the agenda for Calgary's economic future, I strongly encourage you to find one of my teammates and talk to them about joining this amazing program. On behalf of everyone at CED, I also want to acknowledge the incredible work of our 3 boards of directors: the Calgary Economic Development Board, the Calgary Film Centre, and the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund. These volunteers work tirelessly to guide our work and are committed to making Calgary better for all of us. And in particular, I'd like to acknowledge our board chairs, Steve Allen, Patty McLeod, and Barry Monroe. I can't see where you're sitting, but please put up your hands. These are amazing Calgarians who contribute an exceptional amount of time. We also have a number of distinguished guests with us today, and I would ask them to please stand up and give a wave as I say your name. Please hold your applause till the end, there's many. They include the Honorable Lois Mitchell, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. We are also fortunate to have with us Joe Ceci, Alberta's Minister of Finance and MLA for Calgary Fort, and Darren Billis, Minister of Economic Development and Trade for the Government of Alberta. We also have with us a number of Calgary MLAs, Greg Clark, Calgary Elbow, Richard Gottfried, Calgary Fish Creek, Jamie Kleinstuber, Calgary Northern Hills, and Karen McPherson, Calgary McKay Nose Hill. I'm not finished. From Calgary City Council, Councillor Jean-Carlo Corra, Councillor Drew Farrell, Councillor Joyty Gondak, and Councillor Evan Woolley. Thank you. Now, unfortunately, Mayor Nenchi's travel schedule means he's unable to be here. The mayor is active on a number of CED initiatives and is on an Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund board member, and he was able to send us a short video message today.
Hello everyone and welcome to Calgary Economic Development's report to the community. I am so upset that I'm not there with you. I hate missing this event. I'm usually there, but it's important for us to come together and have a really important conversation about where we are and what we are trying to accomplish together as a community. It's no secret that we're in the middle of a structural change. It's no secret that times have been tough. But I want to remind you, as I do every year, as I do at every opportunity, that if times are going to be tough, I'd rather have tough times here than anywhere else. That we remain an incredibly prosperous place, one of the most prosperous in the world. We remain one of the most best educated places in the world. The Economist calls us the best city in North America, in fact, in the Western Hemisphere to live, the fourth best in the world. The only place we don't get 100% on quality of life is the weather. But given that, we have the ability to do something even more incredible here. And that's where I want you all to focus, because sometimes perception becomes reality. Sometimes woe is me conversations lead to more woe. And in fact, what we need to do is focus on the amazing. Focus on folks like Adibotics, and you're going to hear from Scott soon, and the incredible things that are happening here in Calgary. I want to remind you that we have an incredible economic development strategy, thanks to Mary Moran and Steve Allen and my colleagues at Calgary Economic Development. Our vision is to be the city of choice in Canada for the world's best entrepreneurs. We embrace innovation. We create solutions for the world's greatest needs in food, in energy, in transportation, and in health. We do that by focusing on four broad pillars: place, talent, innovation, and business friendly, making sure that Calgary remains the very best place in Canada, if not the best place in the world, to start and grow a business. Certainly, we're focusing on 7 industry sectors where we are good and we could be even better. That's energy in all its forms, including conventional, clean, green, and renewable, transportation and logistics, travel and tourism, agri-food and agribusiness, life sciences, financial services, and the creative industries. All of those are important, but so are startups in every kind of industry. So are things that are solving those world problems, and work is well underway. From the City of Calgary's perspective, we're working hard on that business-friendly pillar, on ensuring that small businesses can turn to the City of Calgary as a customer, that we're cutting red tape all over the place, we're making it easier to get your permits and be able to move forward. We're focused on the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, helping small businesses grow and helping foreign investment come here to Calgary. And yes, we're focused on the structural issues around property tax and the shift from the downtown and making sure that small businesses can thrive and succeed even in this economy. And soon, we'll be talking about a bold initiative to remind everyone that Calgary is open for business, because ultimately, growing that top line revenue for existing businesses is really what will make the difference in their future prosperity. So there's lots on the go. I'm getting pretty excited, as you can tell. But I'm excited fundamentally because even in tough times, there's nowhere I'd rather be. Thank you all for being here.
We'll be sure to send him a video thanking him. Westjet is the title sponsor for this event, and I'd now like to invite Westjet's Vice President for Industry, Corporate, and Airport Affairs, Mike McNanny, to the stage to make a few remarks and share with us a short video.
So I'm smart enough to recognize the emphasis there was on a few remarks in a short video. So I'll make sure I proceed at a proper clip. It is indeed a sad commentary at a 14 14 pitch. I still have to put on my glasses. So thank you, Robin, for that kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, I do want to take a moment to thank Mary and her team at Calgary Economic Development. It's through initiatives such as Action Calgary, Startup Calgary, the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund, and the Global Business Centre that Calgary Economic Development is leading the charge to make holy crap, I say Calgary a lot in this opening paragraph. Probably should have read that before I came out. Is leading the charge to make Calgary a great place to live, work, study, and do business. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to take a few minutes to outline very quickly what Westjet is up to these days. And later on in the program, we will be giving away 2 tickets. My notes actually say it's 2 tickets anywhere we fly in the world. One of us has to be correct. If I am incorrect, she was correct. But we will be giving away 2 tickets, 2 sets of tickets anywhere we fly via business card draw. And I do want to warn you, when we do the draw, if you are selected, we will be posing a skill testing question that is based on the comments I make here this afternoon. So please pay very close attention, and I'm quite assured that for the next 120 seconds I'll have a very rapt audience. Unless, of course, the flights are only for within Alberta, and you don't have to pay any attention to me at all. Westjet is the title sponsor of this important event because it reflects the pride we have in our city and this province. We launched on February 29th, 1966, and since this is not a leap year, we are celebrating our 23rd birthday today. And on behalf of more than 13,000 Westjetters, thank you for your support over the years, support that has allowed us to grow and become the airline we are today. If you have not flown on us during our 23 years of operation, I have nothing to say to you. Though we now fly to well over 100 cities and more than 20 countries, Calgary International Airport is our largest operation and is our hub, where we operate approximately 150 flights a day to 50-plus destinations. Last fall, we announced that our first Boeing 787 Dreamliners, which was that lovely, lovely plane you saw in the foyer, that's about $300 million a pop, that all 3 of our first 787 Dreamliners will be based here in Calgary. We are the first airline to ever actually made that type of investment. You notice how I didn't start speaking to cut off the applause, so that was great, thank you. Beginning this spring, we will also use these Dreamliners to fly nonstop from Calgary to Paris, London, and Dublin. In a few minutes, I will show you a video of how we configured and designed our version of this amazing aircraft. Recently, we unveiled more new routes out of Calgary to Portland, Austin, as well as to Atlanta, the largest airport in the world and home to our partner, Delta Airlines. As we continue to grow in Calgary, we are also greatly enhancing our business connectivity by increasing frequencies to and from key business centers and key business markets, and setting consistent, predictable schedules. That is my polite way of saying to the business community, you have no more damn excuse not to be flying on us. We talk so much about our flights from Calgary that we sometimes forget about the importance of our flights to Calgary and inbound tourism and the business, supporting inbound tourism and the business this helps create. Last year alone, we operated more than 48,000 flights to YYC, and we look forward to working more fulsomely with our tourism partners in 2019 as we grow that number. I mention all of these new services and investments. Well, I'm mentioning these new services and investments because I want you to buy tickets on our new services and investments. But I'll wrap this at a higher level. I reference all this investment in new services to underscore that in conjunction with our partner, Bob Sartor at Calgary Airport Authority, we are building and investing heavily in YYC. And there are good news investment stories occurring every day in our city, and you'll hear more about those shortly. So to wrap up, I hope you enjoyed the discussion this afternoon. I hope to see you on a WestJet flight in the near future. I hope you took notes for the skill testing questions. And I hope you will also enjoy the short video we now will run of our 787 Dreamliner. Thank you.
They say fortune favors the bold. We say bold is just the beginning. And this particular beginning is the dawn of a new chapter for Westjet and a new era for travelers in Canada and around the globe. Welcome to the Westjet 787 Dreamliner. World class, distinctly Canadian, uniquely Westjet. with all new features and, of course, our industry-leading WestJet guest service. Throughout the cabin, our interior design takes inspiration from iconic Canadian landscapes, and in-flight comfort is enhanced by the uncompromising quality of the interior finish and custom details. In business class, on-demand dining and unprecedented levels of service, relaxation, and privacy allow each guest to define exactly how they like to fly. In premium economy, comfort and value combine for an exceptional guest experience. Guests will enjoy premium menu offerings, self-serve social area, and of course, seats with more space. In economy, discover oversized self-dimming windows and leading-edge in-flight entertainment and connectivity with in-seat device charging. When it's time for our business class guests to relax and fully unwind, lay-flat seating, luxury bedding, and turn-down service make each flight a dream. Yes, this is WestJet, and this is the way we love to fly. We're bringing the spirit of Canada to the world, and the world to Canada. This is the new WestJet, and this is the new WestJet 787 Dreamliner.
What an incredibly exciting time for WestJet, and I do have to boast, I actually just flew home today on a gorgeous 8-day-old 787 Dreamliner, so I really recommend it. CED is so grateful to WestJet for deepening their roots in Calgary, making a significant contribution to the economy, including job creation, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to hearing from Mike and WestJet again at the end of our program. I'm gonna have to stick my card in there now. I'm now going to turn the proceedings over to the woman who has led CED for the past 4 years. Now, as probably all of you know, Mary left us to lead the Olympic bid for part of 2018. We're thrilled to have her back, leading the team. Please join me in welcoming the President and CEO of Calgary Economic Development, the fearless Mary Moran.
Thanks so much, Robin, and thank you for your kind words. I'm still a little bit confused because I'm trying to figure out, even though Marininci isn't here, how he managed to steal all my content. We should do a video of that. It's great to be back at Calgary Economic Development and reporting to you, the community, our 2018 results. 2018 was certainly an eventful and memorable year for Calgary Economic Development, and for me personally. As Robin mentioned, I took a leave of absence to lead Calgary 2026 in the bid for the Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. And I could not have done that without the tremendous support that I received from the Calgary Economic Development Board, our board chair, Steve Allen, who is incredibly selfless, and the remarkable team at Calgary Economic Development. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you. It was a huge privilege and an honor to serve as that role for Calgary 2026. And although the outcome was not what my board chair, Scott Hutchinson, or I expected, we learned a lot about what this community needs to do to achieve its full potential. And although we had at Calgary 2026 this great image of this 50-day event cheering this community up, getting us rallied around a project, and lifting us up when we needed it most, and opening our arms to welcome the world once again, the reality is that we didn't achieve it. And we didn't achieve it because there were many things going on in this community. We thought that the long-term objective of investing in our infrastructure so we can leave it for the generations after us, whether it be in sport or social housing or in accessibility, we thought that we needed to strengthen our position as a center of excellence for winter sports in the world. But more importantly, and closer to my heart from a Calgary economic development perspective, is we felt that this was going to be an opportunity for us to reposition Calgary and advance our economic strategy. But the reality is that we really wanted to ensure that we were showing that we could do a low-carbon Olympics, that we could showcase the tremendous, tremendous advanced technologies in sport and in security and cybersecurity and every guest experience that we would have had through the Olympics. And that we would have every small, medium business ready to showcase their goods, their service, their products, their foods, their arts, their culture, and ready to export to the world after the torch had been turned down. We really thought that it was a great opportunity. We wanted to be able to tell a more modern story about our city. But the economic and the political forces that enveloped our city last fall, and our country and our province, whether that be Saudi Arabia, whether that be NAFTA, whether that be the widening differential in the global market for an oil price, whether it be pipelines or whether it be the property tax gap in the downtown core, those forces were so incredibly strong that there was no way that Calgary 2026 could overcome it in the 90 days we had to communicate to the community. Calgary's psyche at that point was very fragile. And they said no. And I, under the circumstances, completely understand and respect that. But the reality is that Calgary, even though Calgary 2026 did not get out of the starting gate, Calgary has every single thing that it needs to stand on top of the podium and compete with world-class cities. After all, as the mayor said, that we are the fourth most livable city in the world and the #1 in North America, moving ahead of Vancouver and Toronto last year. And at Calgary Economic Development, what we always say is our biggest problem is as we go out and sell it to the community, is that we know that, but the rest of the world doesn't. And although the Olympics is a powerful mechanism for us to go tell our story to the world, it's not the only mechanism. And that's why Calgary Economic Development is driven to rise to this challenge. And that's why it made my return to Calgary Economic Development so easy. We are optimistic about the future, and we have greater resolve to try to fill in that role to go tell the world about the great things that are going on in this community. And we are doing that by building on our success of 2018. We had a record year last year and attracted and retained 87 companies in Calgary, creating 8,300 jobs here. That's 2 times the number of companies and 5 times the number of jobs we did just 2 years ago. You know, and what we've seen is that this community is still, many of our friends and neighbors are still having a tough time. And they're looking to us to help them start something new. And certainly our Startup Calgary program has proven to be very, very successful. We've seen early stage entrepreneurs flock to this program to try to reinvent themselves, putting 4,000 people through that program in 80 different sessions. And in fact, recently, Startup Calgary traveled to Silicon Valley with some Calgary companies to try to compete against 100 startup companies around the world. And 3 Calgary companies were named in the top 50, including Bootkit, Virtual Guru, as well as Ingu Solutions. And more importantly, they were identified by Forbes magazine as the most innovative startups to watch. That is really, really impressive. It talks about what's simmering here in Calgary. And for the established businesses, we launched our Trade Accelerator program. And we're so proud that we graduated 42 companies through that program last year. And now they know how to go find more customers in more markets, which perfectly aligns with the federal government's agenda of getting us more trading partners so we're not so dependent upon the US. And from a film and television perspective, Calgary Economic Development serviced $181 million of production here in the Calgary region. But the big news for us last year was our Opportunity Calgary Investment $100 million fund. We opened it in April of last year and received 200 applications, which just gives you an indication of what the community is doing in this to help us advance the economic agenda. I think this is a bold, bold move by the City of Calgary. As I said last year, it's their $100 million. We don't get to touch it or see it. We just get to manage it. But we've already awarded 3 applicants. We awarded Mob Squad, a fund which is focused on talent attraction. You'll hear from Scott later, who we awarded a fund focused on from Adabotics, which is focused on logistics technology. And of course, we're so proud to be partnering with the University of Calgary for the brand new Life Sciences Innovation Hub. And this is monumental. This is a milestone for us to be partnering with the university to help some of the world-class research that happens up at the university be commercialized. That is going to be our future. 2018 was a remarkable year. There was no question for Calgary economic development. It was a record year. But the one key thing I want to leave for the audience is we are going to raise the bar higher, even higher next year, with trying to attract and retain 100 companies. I think the mayor talked a little bit about this, and we have to acknowledge the fact that we are still facing as a community a lot of headwinds. And even though Trans Mountain made it one step closer last week, it's probably going to be a few years until the pipeline is built. And even when we look at our downtown office space and the 13 to 14 million square feet of office space that's still available, we know from the studies that we've done that with modest growth, that it will take us over a decade to fill that office space. And we know from the energy's perspective, even with the panacea of a pipeline or an LNG terminal, that they won't create jobs the way they have in the past. In fact, the global energy supply map has changed forever. But CED is committed to that long haul. We know that what we do over the next few years will determine the next few decades for this community and for our economy. And that's why we're investing wisely with our Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund. But more important than the tools, it is really important that we have a shared vision. And we were so pleased last year when City of Calgary, or City Council, unanimously supported our economic strategy called Calgary in the New Economy. This is our beacon, our community's beacon. This is going to help guide us for the next several years. It is ambitious, but it is achievable. If we work better together, we build stronger trust, and we all start pulling in the same direction. That economic strategy is vision. The mayor used my content, but I'm going to tell you anyway. That economic strategy is for Calgary to be the city of choice in Canada, for world's best entrepreneurs to come here, where they can solve some of the biggest challenges facing the world and address some of the greatest needs. For cleaner energy, for secure and safe food, for the movement of goods and people around much more safely, and for better health solutions. That can happen here. Calgary, with being at a crossroad as we are today, some people would say it's an economic evolution. I would say it's a revolution. And it's a revolution because we have this opportunity to embrace this advanced technology and let it spur our economy and really start to own being the innovation center for our industrial sectors in Canada. We have the right to win in some of these sectors. We can be the center for the innovation industrial transformation. Now, those 4 pillars that the mayor tried to cite but couldn't are focused around innovation. They're focused around place and placemaking, the business environment, and talent. And we're going to talk about those on the panel, and you're going to learn how they are interrelated and how they can propel each other forward. But because I'm on the stage and my favorite topic is talent, I want to talk to you a little bit about that. We know that the energy pipeline is important, but I keep saying to the staff at Calgary Economic Development, if we don't fix the talent pipeline, it is going to become equally as critical as getting an energy pipeline. We hear it every single day. Whether we're trying to help companies like Benevity and Solium grow here and stay here, whether we're trying to attract companies here, Amazon being an exaggerated example of that. Whether we're trying to get the energy industry and the agriculture industry to embrace digitization and automation, or whether we're trying to get companies that are headquartered here to move their digital offices from Toronto, because they didn't have a choice, back into Calgary. They all cite the same problem: talent, talent, talent. And Solium is a great example of that. They came to us a few years ago and they said, if we get the right people in the right jobs here, if you help us recruit some of those people, then we will be Calgary's next billion-dollar company. Canadian. And of course, two weeks ago or earlier this month, Morgan Stanley announced that they were purchasing Calgary. It's on sale. Purchasing Solium. And that sends such an incredible message to the tech industry, both for investors, but for companies. But it also puts more pressure on us to ensure that our talent pipeline is flowing, that we're retraining people, we're recruiting people, and we're developing people. The talent thing, the talent issue, you would think with high unemployment that it should be easy. But the reality is it's not necessarily the right talent for the new economy. And if we want to own our position in this new economy, then we have to get it resolved. Now, there are things that are helping, and certainly we have to look at our post-secondary system and make sure that we're changing and make sure that we're ensuring that people are getting retrained as technology changes. And certainly the $50 million that the Government of Alberta announced earlier this year for 3,000 tech spots in the province is starting to build that pipeline. And even more exciting, and more recently, is the $100 million that the Government of Alberta announced to set up an office here in Calgary for the Alberta Machine Learning Intelligence Institute. It is world-renowned from a research perspective, and having an office in Calgary lets us do more with corporations here around artificial intelligence and machine learning and applied technology. That's a huge, huge opportunity. But back to my earlier message. We have to get more aggressive about telling our story. Shout it from the rooftops that this is the #1 place in North America to live. That we have low cost of housing, we have great quality of life, we are a safe community, and you can get office space. It is a global challenge. And if we really want to position ourselves against the Torontos, the Vancouvers, and the Waterloos, then we have to get our talent situation sorted out because we are far behind those cities. Look, I'm convinced, and I know our organization is convinced, that our best days are still ahead of us. And we have to start fighting for the city again. There is so much opportunity, and although it has been tough, there is such a big opportunity, as the mayor said, more of my content that he stole. But it is important that we work better together. And there is no question the Olympics was a divisive discussion, but it did something critically important. It started a much more serious, a more focused, and a more energetic conversation about the future of our community. I'm not crying, by the way, I just have a cold. And I would say from our perspective that Olympics or not, that Calgary has its place on the world stage, and we need to take advantage of it, and we need to do it soon. But it requires us to stay focused and focus on those parts of the economic strategy around innovation, around talent, around place, and around a business-friendly community. It will require all of us to work together, and the city needs all of us to do it. But it is exciting. So thank you so much for your time. It is honestly a true honor to be back in this role, serving for the community, and I can tell you, the staff at Calgary Economic Development and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to help advance our economic agenda. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mary. I'd like to now invite my colleague, Court Ellingson, to the stage to take us into the panel discussion. Court is the Vice President of Research and Strategy for CED, and he actually led the development of the economic strategy, so is certainly the best person to introduce our speakers and lead us through a discussion about what forces will shape our future as a city. Court.
Thank you, Robin. The economic strategy for Calgary, Calgary and the New Economy, that was unanimously passed by Council last June, was the product of almost a year's worth of work, engaging approximately 1,800 Calgarians, including the guidance received from our CEO Roundtable that include leaders from the community in our business community, the education and academic community, and the not-for-profit and social community. But I want to stress that this is the community's strategy. It is a guide for our civic partners and for other stakeholders for us to come together and work and contribute to our overall prosperity. Calgary Economic Development serves as the steward of the strategy in helping bring people together in the implementation of the strategy. In this time of unprecedented change, we put the focus on the foundations of economic development: talent, innovation, place, and business environment. We're so happy today to have people here who can speak to each of those pillars. We're going to hear from three panelists and invite Mary back to have a discussion about those elements of the economic strategy. I'm going to remind you of our hashtag YYCRTC. If you have the opportunity to tweet a question, we'll try and get to some of those as we go through our conversation. I'm going to first invite Catherine Laughlin, is an internationally recognized trailblazer in place science and why place matters to people and to economies. She's held leadership roles in some of the most groundbreaking place science projects in the world, earning her the moniker the City Doctor. Catherine traveled here from North Carolina earlier this week. We had the opportunity to chat with her on the phone. She told us that the first signs of spring are evident in North Carolina, bringing us some sense of hope. Catherine is the author of Place Match, City Doctor's Guide to Finding Where You Belong. Everyone who responds to our survey today will not be winning a Westjet trip, but will be entered into a draw for a copy of Catherine's book. Please welcome Catherine Laughlin.
Well, I am very excited to be here today. I did come all the way from North Carolina, and I can say that as I was planning my trip up here, my friends at Calgary, I swear, I don't think since I was a kid was I told so much to bring a coat, bring a coat. And I'm like, I know, I've been to Canada a bit. This is my third trip to Calgary alone. But the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I can understand. They're probably very fearful that as soon as I see your weather forecast, I assume it must be fake news. What does that negative sign mean in front of that number? I'm completely confused. But my task here today is to tell you everything I know about places in 12 minutes. So I won't be doing that, but I will be telling you some things that I think would be helpful for you to understand the purpose of having the place pillar as part of your economic development strategy. But let's start first with a couple of definitions. Place science is actually a term that I've coined a few years ago that really talks about the critical independent relationship people have between themselves and the place that they live. And it's a really interesting science behind what our relationship with place actually does for a place, but also for us as individuals and how it can really help drive local economies. Placemaking, on the other hand, is applying these principles of place science to inspire a connection between people and a place in an effective way, not only in just the public areas, but really as you look at your entire landscape as a place. You know, you get a shrink and you're gonna get this. And one of the things that I think is really important to understand is to go back and understand the importance of place to us as humans. You don't get very far up the hierarchical needs. Right after physiological needs of sleep, food, and shelter, safety needs becomes this critical component that we all share as humans to belong. And to feel like we are in a place where we feel that connection, that we actually love where we live. We love the groups we're associated with in our geographical space. We get pride and strength from that allows us to continue to feel good about ourselves and become self-actualized, the best people we can be. And what place does for us is that it provides that critical ingredient that we as humans require if we're going to become the best humans we can be. So that's only part of the equation, however. A lot of research in recent years that I have done and other people have done as well are bringing to the surface the power of place in today's world and how it is changing in influence. And you've heard some of that already today. But starting with this kicker, which is we are now living in an environment, not just in my country, but around the world, where you have young talent that will prioritize a place over a job. Now, if you think about how economic development traditionally works, it's about job, 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 job. And of course, that's critically important. But today, we are seeing over and over young people looking at the job package they're being presented and saying, I have to live where? That fundamental difference in these little economic engines that we call young talent is a game changer in the way places have to structure and develop over time. And if you're talking about the highly talented young people and young families that you're looking to attract and retain, who are going to get job offers from a few different places, amazingly, the entire decision becomes about where they will live. But then it gets even more interesting. In more recent years, I have been doing some very interesting research in understanding how the boundaries between place and workplace have become incredibly blurred, to the point that your productivity as an employee, your self-reports of job satisfaction are influenced by how you feel about the place that you're living. And if you look at how much companies have worked so hard in recent years around this idea of employee engagement, How can we get our employees to feel engaged and connected to the workplace? This has been a real eye-opener, because if once your employees walk out the door at 5 or 6 or 3 o'clock to go back and live in that place, and it's a negative experience, for them, it is as bad as being unhappy with the job. And so, we have these lines completely blurred where it's not good enough anymore to talk about employee engagement. We have to also be talking about, how are you feeling about living here? And growing that, what we call attachment. And then, of course, what my research brought to the table in a really huge way was that place quality and having people love where they live actually translates pretty quickly to economic growth for that place. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Not as much as I would like, but a little bit about that today, to understand how that process works. But it doesn't only matter for resident local economic growth. Also, being able to be ambassadors for your place is huge in developing the tourism that you want to see, have people come here and visit you as well. You know, the thing about tourism is that the #1 client for any tourism campaign should be its residents. Because if the residents aren't buying what you're selling, it's really hard to get anybody else to do it. Have you ever seen a tourism campaign on television or on the in-flight entertainment? And you're like, I've been to that place. It didn't look anything like that. Where did they get this stuff? That's where we already start going off the rails. Authenticity in developing place narratives and place quality that people say, yes, that is my place. And man, am I proud about that. Residents are the ambassadors for making that happen. Because what do? They turn around and tell their friends, why don't y'all come up for Thanksgiving at our place this year? Maybe not Thanksgiving, because it's a little cold, I imagine, but in the summer. And you know what? As much as we talk about the weather, us Southerners are fascinated by snow. What is this white stuff? I sent pictures from the plane home to my child, and she said, what are those lines? Are those ants? I said, no, those are roads, dear. Perspective, it matters. But also, the other thing about this is you have to know who you are as a place. Place identity is critical in developing your brand and your marketing strategy. It has to be authentic, and it has to be specific to you. We can't be happy anymore with just the live, work, and play. Every city I go to says that. And I actually propose a cocktail game. I think it would be great at a party or something to say, here's a place brand, can you guess the city in 10 guesses or less? Because if you're doing a brand effectively, it should be like that. But if you said live, work, and play, well, that's our place too, that's our place, it's everybody's place. And it loses its meaning because we've stopped doing the work that's required to cultivate authentic place brands. And of course, the great conversation, and I was a part of starting it, and I'm very sorry about the buzzword around quality of life and ranking cities and all of that stuff. I have contributed to that, I will admit. But it's really important that we understand what quality of life means. Quality of life is not just about, do you have the recipe for a great place? That's a good start. But it still matters that humans feel like it's quality of life to them. They have to be in those spaces and experience it for themselves, because we are all different. We don't all want the same exact things from our place. You know, I hear from people all the time, more than I ever thought I would, who have read a ranking of the best places to X, Y, and Z and actually moved there because of that ranking to email me to tell me how they hate it. Why do we hate it here? Because it still has to feel like quality of life to you and your family. And so we have to make sure that we're getting both of it right. We're building great places, but we're also showcasing it in such a way that people can determine if it feels like quality of life to them. That's where your economics start to come into play. And of course, these are the things that I'm not sure we understand, but the research is really clear. The more that humans, individuals, residents, feel a sense of belonging to their place, it actually improves individual outcomes for people. They are less isolated. As a social worker by training, I can tell you that any social problem you can name me, I can make a very clear empirical path to how it started with some level of social isolation or feeling like they did not belong. It is one of the root causes for almost everything we see today. And so being in a place where you have that sense of community and a sense of connection really helps, like Maslow told us, to be the best people that we can be. And we rely on our place to help get us there. We've seen this with older populations, greater health-seeking behaviors, greater public health outcomes when people love where they live because they're out. They enjoy their place, they walk, they exercise, they go see the doctor, instead of isolating socially, isolating economically. It matters, and it matters in brand new ways. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I was the lead consultant on what has been named the most groundbreaking place research of the last century, no pressure, the Night Soul of the Community Project, which was a project where we asked two very simple, but to that point, unasked questions. What makes people love where they live, and does it matter? At the time, the funder of this research, the Knight Foundation out of Miami, Florida, had funding interests in 26 US communities. And through that work, $100 million later in investment, they started thinking, like, what could we be doing to strengthen our places? And there was actually a debate internally. There were people who were like, do places still matter? Or are they just places where we rest our head and we go to work and we come home and we raise our families and we don't really has technology removed the place component? And so we went to try to figure out, first of all, can we measure resident attachment? Can we measure people's emotional investment in a place? And what we found was that we actually could. But what's important to know about resident attachment is it's not just one thing that makes us fall in love with where we live. It's a few things. And some of those things matter more than others, quite actually, but they all fit together in what us social scientists call a factor. They hang together empirically. And they are outlook. How optimistic are you about your place's future? It is critically important to feel a sense of optimism, to be attached to it today, because we as humans, hey, we want to bet on the winning team. We want to be on the winning team, right? We want to feel like we're on a place that maybe if it's not where it's going to be, at least it's on the rise, and you want to be a part of that. We want to be in a place that we recommend, that we have a sense of feeling like this is a good place, you should come. There's this sense of it being a perfect place for you. Not the perfect place, but I didn't have room in the heart to say perfect place for you. So it's the perfect place for you, not the perfect place, but where you feel like you belong. And then there's this thing that most cities have started asking their residents about and feel like they're measuring attachment, but they're not: satisfaction. Satisfaction is part of resident attachment, but satisfaction does not predict whether people will leave. You can be, it's fine, satisfied, I'm good. That doesn't predict whether they have skin in the game the way attachment does, and a sense of pride. When you get on the airplane, do you dread the person next to you asking you where you're from? Or can you not wait to tell them? These kinds of things together create the metric of attachment. And some of those things, like I said, matter more than others. And when I finished this research, I went into all 26 communities. I did not speak to all 36,000 people we interviewed over 3 years, but I did have a lot of community conversations like this where I would ask questions that I wasn't clear on, reading the tea leaves of data. And one of the things that I learned is that the data shows that optimism matters more than those other things. We are forward-thinking as people, and so optimism matters. What did not matter as much, and I couldn't understand this, was recommending it. Like people were not, they could love their place, but they wouldn't talk about recommending it. So it wasn't a huge difference, but it was a significant one, and I needed to understand why. And I got a very interesting response, which has a growth connotation, which is sometimes when you love where you live, you don't want to tell anybody. Because we got our hands full infrastructure-wise with what we got, and nobody tell. Because it's two things. We can't necessarily afford a lot of influx from an infrastructure standpoint, and we're terrified of losing what we have if we have that happen. And so it's a really interesting conversation. But anyway, this is the model of attachment. Now, what are the things about a place that drives those feelings? We studied 11 things about a place, everything from the leadership, its local economy, the softer sides of place, trash pickup, affordable housing, the gamut. And what was fascinating about this particular research is that everywhere we studied, every city, which was everything from Detroit to Macon, Georgia, Philadelphia to San Jose, Charlotte to Miami, we had a huge diversity of cities. The same things mattered the most for people to love where they lived, and it was the softer sides of place. Because everywhere the trash gets picked up, theoretically, everywhere the potholes will get filled at some level, but what makes us fall in love with a place are these softer sides, the social offerings. Number one, everywhere we studied, the thing that most predicted people loving where they live was having a positive opinion of the social offerings, which is a huge thing that I can't even begin to unpack right now, but it's about entertainment, but it's also about informal, choose-your-own-adventure opportunities in a community. It's about civility. It's about how those opportunities are run. And then there's the aesthetics. When you look around, the first and most consistent message a place sends about itself is its aesthetics. It is where we get our pride in our place. And lastly, welcomeness. How well, not only do disenfranchised groups feel welcome here, but how well are we a cradle-to-grave kind of community? That's a hard thing to do. Would young talent find themselves as welcome here as seniors? Do we have that kind of opportunity where anybody who wanted to make a life for themselves here, not just based on demographics, but in position in life, make that place for themselves here in this place? These were the things that drove people falling in love with where they live. And when you had higher levels of people loving where they lived, you also saw higher levels of local economic growth. This isn't about rich places feeling good about being rich places. This is about the metric of growth over time. Because when people love where they live, they make economic choices that help the economy. And they become more attractive because businesses feel like we can get our talent. They have the place that we have to have an easy sell to our talent. They're already there. And so it becomes this economic component. Now, the thing that scared me when Seoul came out was that everybody would be just like, we'll just take the best stuff from everywhere and we'll bring it here. We're going to have, Sydney Opera House down there, and we'll have the Empire State Building and the Space Needle. And, it's a way of losing sight of the importance of narrative. Now, I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. Y'all got me beat. Y'all are the #1 place to live. We do okay too. Bunch of y'all live down in my town. I know you see my North Carolina, Calgary Canada pin? It's because a friend of mine who's Canadian, and I have about 10 literally who live in North Carolina now. But we're a good place too. And this is my lovely town. This is also my town. Every time. This is not, I didn't make this up. This isn't photoshopped. We got 2 inches of snow a couple of years ago, and it was immobilizing. And that is our Beltline. That is not a postal rural road in some backwater area. This was our main, thoroughfare. And cars were on fire, children were wandering in the highway. There was bewilderment, there was, the zombies must be right there. It was horrific. And this picture went on the cover of almost every national publication there is. And the only people that loved it was Fred's Beds because their sales went up like 30%. Children slept in their schools that night because their parents couldn't get to them. And we have a lot of people from other places in my lovely hometown. And they got on the news and they said, listen, we can't shut schools down for 2 weeks because y'all got a half an inch of snow. We're going to have to, so we're offering defensive driving courses on winter preparedness. Please come. And you know what? None of us went. We just gonna sit by the fire with our canned goods and our mint juleps and we'll see you next Thursday because we ain't coming. Because you've come to live with us, so live with us. That's how this looks. There are things about our culture in a place that are brilliant. We have our moments. You guys are having a moment. That Beltline situation is my town's bless your heart moment. If a Southerner says bless your heart, it ain't a compliment. We all got our bless our heart moments. You're having yours. And behind a bless your heart moment is the brilliant Hawaiians who have figured out line waiting better than any other culture I've been able to find. If that's not a narrative, I don't know what is. So in wrapping things up here, I want you to think about all the places, the strengths that you have to pull from. The moment that we think of our places as just our industry, or just our geography, we undermine the power of our place to be so much more than that. We're not just one thing. We're all these things. And so when you look at your narrative and you think about what's next and you see these positive things coming, pull from all your buckets for your narrative. Because you guys have amazing stuff up here. It's amazing. I would almost put up with the cold myself. So, and the last thing I'm gonna say is I've talked a lot today about the city side and how you optimize places. There is a journey that you are on as residents to find that place where you belong. And I wrote a book that compares finding the right place to live like finding the right partner. You date a place, you marry a place, you divorce a place, you might have a side place. It gets complicated. But what I can tell you, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, they're going to yank me off the stage, is that the thing about being married to your place or dating your place is that tough times are going to come, like in any marriage. And it's not about those things not happening, because none of us get to avoid that. You are not the only city, you know this, who've gone and have come out the other side better. But what I will tell you right now is the difference between a place marriage that survives and doesn't is the ability to be resilient, the ability to bounce back with your place even stronger than you were before, just like a marriage. When it's game over is when people say, I give up. So I would beg you to not give up on your place. Bounce back, be resilient, and be strength-based in what lies ahead for Calgary, and I cannot wait to see it. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thanks, Catherine. I can tell you, as somebody who has lived in several places in 3 separate countries, I keep coming back here. And I could probably say that each person who ever sits beside me on my Westjet flight probably doesn't want to hear any more about how much I love this place. Next, I'd like to welcome up Scott Gravel. Scott is co-founder, CEO, and CTO of Adibotics. It tells me here a lot about what Adibotics is all about. He's probably going to tell us, I'm so happy to have a partner of the Opportunity Calgary Investment Fund speaking here today, and who's going to tell us a little bit about how Calgary has the ability to disrupt our traditional sectors, a sign that Calgary can compete in tech. Scott's going to talk to us about talent and innovation, but I wanted to, in the introduction, talk a little bit about how he followed kind of a normal path to become the CEO of a tech company. So he worked as an Army medic, a competitive hang glider, a reality TV show contestant, and was partner in a globally recognized longboard company. Everything that you would expect. So I'd like to introduce Scott Gravel.
An entrepreneur's journey is fascinating to me. I'm a participant and a spectator. And I'm thrilled that you guys get to join me on part of my journey today. It was wonderful to follow such a great speaker as Catherine. She has a lot of strong messages to give, and it's obvious that she is a professional. You get to join me on my first speech, so thank you. As Court mentioned, typical path. You know, went to MIT, took entrepreneurism in school, got an MBA at Stanford, and then started a tech company in the Valley. That's what they expect when you start a robotics company. When I told people I was building robots in Calgary, they said, why? I love where I live. It's that simple. I love it here. Now, let me add to that this might make it a little more meaningful, because I grew up in Edmonton. I came to Calgary 25 years ago to go get a Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. You know, that part of that typical plan to become a robotics entrepreneur. I was asked to talk about innovation and to talk about talent. Let me first show you what my talented team has done. So we looked at modern commerce. You guys all buy stuff online, and you didn't 5 or 10 years ago. The problem with modern commerce is traditional supply chain technology doesn't support it. So we started to think outside of the box by creating actually a box. In this box, we've got the world's first 3D robotic shuttles that move through this box, storing things at the highest density of any system in the world. Also can achieve the world's highest throughput for a solution like this. And then once we've got what we need, we then bring it out to whoever is putting the stuff you bought into a box. But we combine sortation, sequencing, and buffering. So doing a bunch of world's firsts isn't the easiest thing. Doing it in Calgary wasn't the easiest thing, but it works, and people are buying it. The system you see here is thanks to some support we got from another Calgary company, Gordon Food Services, that took a leap with us to help prove out our technology. So, to give you an idea of what this all means for a supply chain, when they build modern warehouses now to drive the supply chain of modern commerce, they're 1.5 million square feet. There's miles and miles of conveyors that pull goods from different areas of the warehouse and have to get them all together. And we take all of that complexity, and this is drastically oversimplified, but we take all the complexity of storage and conveyors and sortation, and we put it in a box. And we have the same functionality as other state-of-the-art technologies today, but we do it in about 15% of the space. We do it with about 20% of the staff, and we do it with a fraction of the robotic assets of any other solution. We also do it about half the price. So innovation required thinking a little differently. Atta is the Latin name for the family of leafcutter ants. Human beings are two-dimensional. I'm walking on the stage right now pacing because I'm nervous, but I'm only doing it in a single plane. And because humans are a two-dimensional species, we've developed our environment to match that. Think about the grocery store. It's rows and it's aisles of goods that you go pick from. Ants build their colonies in 3 dimensions, and they access their goods vertically. So we were inspired to build a robotic system for storage and retrieval that was ideally suited for a robot and not for a person. And our inspiration was looking at the most successful natural systems on the planet. So that's our technology. That's our innovation. You can't innovate without smart, talented people. And if you believe the propaganda that the city of Calgary put out for their bid for Amazon, this city is full of really smart, talented people. Over 32,000 engineers in this city. And I'm proud to say that a bunch of them now have joined to come work with me. This is a small fraction of our team. We're a happy bunch. We're a happy bunch because Calgary's economy has changed. But it hasn't changed its spirit. We're considered an energy city. We still are, but the energy isn't in the ground, it's in the people. When I started creating a company to create state-of-the-art technology, but I wanted to do it here because I love this place. Everyone else who wanted to come join me wanted to do it here because they love this place too. A lot of our staff were displaced in the downturn in the oil and gas economy. So we've got software developers, we've got embedded developers, we've got mechatronic specialists, roboticists, systems analysts, manufacturing engineering, process engineering, project management, machinists and assembly labor. All those people that used to work in oil and gas now come work for us. And we're not just building robots here in Calgary. We're building a team to do something different with the resources we have in this city. In July of 2016, we started on this crazy journey, and we hired our very first employee. Monday, I welcomed our 162nd employee into our company. We should be over 250 people this year. The reason what's driving that is, although our technology is new and raw, this team has done an amazing job at actually making it work. And in 2017, when we talk about company building and what's good for an economy, we did, in our first year of operations, full year of operations, we did $350,000 in revenue. I was thrilled. Last year, because of the hard work of my team, we brought $71 million in the door in bookings. So, but we're trying to build another company in Calgary. Not just a job. We're building a culture. I remind my staff always that I'm trying to build the company where I always wanted to work. And letting smart people be smart and do smart things has meant that now every day I go to work in the best place I've ever worked in my life because I get to work with the most talented people. And almost all of them came from Calgary. We're now doing something in tech, which I'm super proud of. We're starting to actually attract talent from outside of Calgary into Calgary because of what we're doing. Our newest VP joins us from Apple and has moved his family up from Cupertino. Why? It wasn't us, I'll be honest with you. It was Calgary. They had a young family and wanted a place to raise a young family. and found that living in the valley was a struggle for that. So they uprooted and decided that Calgary was there where they were going to come live, and we were lucky enough that when he went looking for a job in Calgary, he found us. So part of this building a company is, right now, we're in 43,000 square feet. Thanks to the help and support of the OSIF Fund from the City of Calgary, tomorrow I get the keys on another 30,000 square feet. So we're scaling up our manufacturing here in Calgary 5x in 2019. We moved into our current facility in March, and we got no room. So I'm also working with another Calgary company, and we've already started on plans with the support of Bob and his team up at YYC to move beyond our 43,000 square foot facility and into 120,000 square foot head office here in Calgary. Now, I got to sell a little bit more before I get there, but I'm getting the drawings done because things are moving quickly. So what I want to talk to you guys about, though, is what you could do to help someone like me. It says it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to build an innovative business. When you look at this chart, each and every one of you will probably see a place where you can contribute. If we were just talking the energy industry here in Calgary, we have everything we need here. But we're not just talking the energy industry anymore. We're trying to do innovative things. So we have technical skill here in this city. We have a great regulatory environment for building a business. Because of local or municipal, provincial, and federal government programs combined with the VC capital in the city, there is the availability of capital. I want to add to that Adabotics is a tech company that's been funded, absolutely, but we're 80% Calgary owned between the founders, the investors, and our staff. The one I really want to address is the idea of risk. This is where you can help. Encouragement goes a long way in encouraging an entrepreneur to do something innovative. I spent 2 years looking for reasons not to do this because this was big and scary. It's really big and really scary. And the encouragement and support that I've gotten from my community, from the city, from the province, from the federal government, but as well from my partner, my family, my friends, and all of the staff that have took a risk to get out of what was comfortable and familiar, to come and do something different, only happened with the support of their spouses and their families and their friends. That has huge value, and innovation doesn't come without risk. I've learned this the hard way because the thing I've learned about 3D robotics is gravity is a bit of a bitch. But we continue to move forward. We move forward with support. So find that spot where you can contribute, because you can. You can all contribute to innovation in Calgary. You can mentor someone. You can talk about life experience. A bunch of you work in different areas in this graph. And I encourage you to find those ways to do your part to build on the innovation here in Calgary. So thank you very much.
Okay, I'm starting to wonder what's going to be left for the panel discussion. Scott, your story may not be typical, but it is amazing. And I know that you're busy trying to build a company, but I hate to break it to you, you're now going to be busy flying around in Westjet planes telling Calgary's story.
That's what I do pretty much professionally now,
So next I'd like to invite Amy Blanchette. Amy is the Manager of Partnership Services within the Planning and Development in the City of Calgary. Her focus is creating strong relationships with the industry customers, community representatives, business owners, and others to identify key issues and opportunities for improvement within the development approvals process. It may not sound very exciting, but I can tell you from my friends at Calgary Economic Development, her work is incredibly valued. Please welcome Amy Blanchette.
Okay, so the good news is about half the crowd's gone, much less intimidating. I actually thought this was going to be terrifying, and then I remembered I have a financial accounting exam tomorrow. Somehow this is easier. So what the heck is business friendly anyway? And I could spend a lot of time up here telling you all about that and what I think it is. And yet I think our customers can probably do a better job of that than I can. What I love about this slide behind us is one, we didn't pay for these testimonials, by the way. But two, this talks about two sides of the coin. So on the one side, we hear from a business owner the value of a relationship, about being a partner, about having support, enabling success. On the other side of the coin here is just get out of my way. Make it easier, streamline the process. I know what I need to do to be successful, just leave it in my hands. So this is the balance that we try to strike every day. I'd like to introduce you to Sonia Sharp in the pictures behind me, and she is our customer coordinator for small business. And Sonia's been in the role now for almost 2 years, and she is a force. So if you are in the business community and you haven't had a chance to meet her yet, I know you will. She is everywhere. She has energy to spare. And what's great about Sonia is she actually comes from an entrepreneurial background, and she's actually owned small businesses herself, even while she's been working at the City of Calgary. So it's actually not an oxymoron. You can work at the City of Calgary and think like a business owner, and Sonia's proof of that. So Sonia took the mayor around last year and did a bit of a tour of small businesses that had recently gone through our approvals process and had worked with Sonia through that. And it was a great opportunity to hear from our business owners what's happening on the ground, not just about us and not just about what we could do better, although that's important, but just to understand their perspective. And so I think the big lesson here is how do we get our internal staff thinking like customers? So this is a pretty, oh, sorry, I think I went too far. So this is a really cool building. This is the Edison downtown, and this is Aspen Properties. And so, again, an innovative idea, a landowner, a business owner that saw an opportunity in the market and wanted to recreate what office space could be in Calgary. That was something as a city we hadn't seen before, and we weren't ready. We didn't know what we needed to do until they came and knocked on our door and said, we're gonna need your help. So this was a great lesson for us in flexibility and adaptability. And I always used to joke that there's only two things that the industry in Calgary wants, and that's flexibility and certainty. So it hasn't been a perfect ride, but we're getting better. And what I love about this quote is it's really about continuous improvement. And that's where we're at right now. We know there's always going to be something new. We know there's going to always be something different. How are we going to respond to that? Another great building. This is the Barron Building. For some of you that may not know, it sat, let's just say, unloved for a period of time. It has some challenges. And Strategic Group took this on and said, we see an opportunity here. Again, it's going to take some work. So City Council saw an opportunity a couple of years ago and actually approved the Center City Enterprise Area. And this was really about creating certainty for investment in our downtown, removing barriers, thinking about what we were really looking to do as a city, and particularly in response to the downtown issues that we were having. And so Strategic stepped up and said, we've got an idea. We want to work with you. And what I love about this quote from Ken, and I know he is our biggest champion, is really about time is money. And we get that, and we understand that. Okay, obviously not sexy, not a great building, but it's important. This is important because we've become the first major municipality in Canada to put our services online. So as a business owner or a wannabe business owner sitting at home and you think you have a great idea and you want to open a business, you don't ever have to come down to City Hall. You can do everything you need to do online. That's pretty groundbreaking. I can't say that typically municipal government has been on the leading edge in technology particularly, but in this case, we really listened to our customers' needs and thought, how can we make this easier? How can we make this better? And how can we give more people an opportunity to take that great idea and make it real? This is just an example of a few things that we see coming in, a little bit different, a little bit innovative, a bit unique. the dog. So we're about to have our first urban pet kennel in downtown Calgary. Again, a business owner who saw an opportunity, who saw a need in the market, and then came to us and said, you guys aren't going to make this easy for me. Your rules don't let me do this. How do I do this? How do I be successful in this idea that I have? And so again, with Sonia's help and with others' help, we figured out a way. We made it happen. They're going to open their business, and we've got a second one on the way. Avenida Food Hall is the other picture up there. Great spot if you haven't been down there yet. The food hall experience is something that, you know, again, it's been around for a while. It's not necessarily new, but how we experience it is. Urban farming, vertical farming, again, how do we get out of the way where we need to? How do we encourage where we have to so that we can help this economy diversify in the ways that it needs to? And then the middle picture there, which I think we might talk a little bit about on the panel if we have time, but the City of Calgary has started something called the Living Labs program. And this is really about recognizing that we own some valuable assets, and those assets are not only our physical infrastructure, but also our data, which I think in a session earlier today, some of you may have been at, we heard is probably going to become even more valuable than the physical assets that we own. So this is about us partnering with the academic community, with the business community, and opening up those assets for testing in some really exciting ways. So the bottom line in all of this is, I don't have an answer for you on what business-friendly means. I continue to look to our customers, and I continue to look to our staff internally to come to those successful outcomes that allow us to be that city that we know we can be and that we need to be. Thank you.
Did we get the mic back? Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Amy, and welcome all of our panelists back. If any of you are looking at the clock, don't worry. I've now become the official clock watcher. We're going to take about 15 minutes-ish, a little shy of 15 minutes to have a conversation. We're still going to work to have us wrapped up by 6 o'clock. So I've just set my stopwatch. So I'm going to start with Amy. And so since you dodged around defining business-friendly for the city, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about how business-friendly has permeated your department and maybe other departments at the city.
Sure. You know, I'm not going to lie, there's some structural stuff that we need to deal with as any, you know, municipal government may have. But I think I can give you an example of a staff member I actually spoke to this morning, luckily enough, who gave me this great line. And she said, you know, a couple of years ago, I really felt like a bit of a dream crusher. Like I kind of felt like a gatekeeper. And I had the rules and I had the policies and I knew what was expected of me and I did those things, but it didn't feel really good. And she said, now I'm in a different place. I can help people be successful. And that feels really good. So the more that we get to do that, I think the structural stuff, we can take care of that. That's easy. The cultural change, the mindset that's happening with our staff day in and day out, I think that's the real win, and that's when we really get to that business friendly.
Cool. Catherine, do you think there's any sense of like attachment and love of the city that's helped the city get to that place?
Well, I would certainly hope so. I think that, you know, the best things happen in a city when you have that attachment metric working in your favor. And that's why so many cities around the world now are using attachment as one of their outcomes that they measure themselves against. How well are we doing keeping people attached to our city because they see the value of that metric and how it can manifest in really making things move quicker and smoother, not only for residents, but for governments as well.
And Scott, I'm wondering, have you felt that at Adibotics?
Absolutely. There was a lot of soul searching early on by a lot of my staff, wondering what their future could look like in the city. A lot of them had been displaced by the slowdown in the oil and gas economy. They didn't want to go anywhere, but they wanted something meaningful and challenging to do. So that was a big benefit to us in building a team, is that there was such strong attachment to these people wanting to do something meaningful here.
Yeah. I have to say, I've had the opportunity to do some volunteering and guest lecturing at a couple of the post-secondaries over the last year or so, and I think, Catherine, what you were saying, and Scott, what you were saying is really true. Like, they're students, some students, they're saying, they don't see their future in the city, or if they do see their place in the city, but they're looking for that opportunity, and they don't necessarily know what opportunities are there. Mary, I know you've had a lot of conversations with people about talent, and you talked about talent pipeline. I'm wondering if you could maybe tell us a little bit about what does CED intend to do about our talent pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I talked a little bit about how we need the right talent for the new economy, and I think Scott's done a great job of recruiting some of those people, but we have to get much more aggressive. And, if we look at Calgary right now, we have 1,500 jobs open for software engineers, data scientists, and tech people. I mean, it pales in comparison to problems like Silicon Valley are having with 29,000 jobs open, but the reality is this is going to get bigger and bigger as we embrace these technologies that are coming towards our industrial sector. So we have to go across the country, and we have to try to recruit that talent, and frankly, having the quality of life here is a real advantage. So, I keep saying to the staff is that, our talent issue isn't as a result of the downturn. We now have it as a risk to our future growth. So let's go across the country. Let's do Coke versus Pepsi kind of comparison of the city. Yeah, you can live in Waterloo and watch, nobody here's from Waterloo, right? You can watch the horse and buggies, or you can come to Calgary and you can live 1 hour away from the Rocky Mountain Playground. And that whole awareness thing, when we go to international markets, like the US, or even other international markets, the UK, or Sean Langendo's here, he's trying to recruit out of India. People don't know where Calgary is. They don't know, and in fact, when we go to Silicon Valley, they're like, we have to always say, let's get the big question out of the way, where's Calgary? They go, is it by Waterloo? No, we're 1 hour away from Banff. Oh, I've been to Banff before. Well, you've been to Calgary. So we have to really reposition this, and from our perspective, we want to invest this, and we need to get much more aggressive about the marketing, because we should be loud and proud about what this community has to offer, make people like Scott's job easier to keep their company here.
Yeah, I have to say, I wholeheartedly agree. As someone who went to grad school in Waterloo, I can tell you that it's not the quality of place that's attracting people to Waterloo. Again, no dissing Waterloo. But Mary, I think you're holding back a little bit. So I did unleash a little bit more. It's
Cold
not just going across the country. Share with us about how, CED has done this before. Calgary has done this before.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, we've gone into markets and looked at kind of, markets where people are likely that there's mobility. They're likely to leave. I always use Ireland as an example for when we had the energy boom. And, I'm Irish. My family's Irish. They've been leaving since the potato famine, and they're highly educated. So, you've got to really match it to, the propensity to move, wage comparison, but really people that are looking for quality of life. So it requires the research to do that, to say where's the talent match in the world, and how can we get it, and really how can we get it quickly.
Yeah, so I'm going to bounce back to Catherine, and understanding that this is an open conversation. You don't have to let me jump in. I'm also going to remind everybody, #YYCRTC. We may not get to your question today, but Calgary Economic Development will try to incorporate those questions into some writings that we do about today's event over the next couple of days. So do keep tweeting. So Catherine, maybe from what you've heard in the presentations today and the responses that we've had just over the last couple of minutes, do you feel like we're on the right path of trying to blend talent attraction, understanding the strengths of our community, and working towards that place and sense of attachment? Do you think we're going the right way?
Yeah, I mean, but I think the other thing that I would say that I observe and I notice is that, and this is true for a lot of places, we really do have the first time where people will show up in a place because they want to live there.
and figure out the job once they get there. That's how badly they want to be there. And it doesn't happen, the younger you are, and I can't tell you how many hysterical parents I've had on the phone saying, what do you mean they just show up in a place without a job? How does that even work? But it does. And the places are really, that are ready for that, are taking true advantage of it. And I think some of the things that we've done in higher education, in college towns, has contributed to that. Because if you think about, you know, how well does the talent pipeline coordinate with what people are getting their degrees in at our local universities? So if you want to use your degree, you can't stay here because we don't think about that sustainability of the talent, or the way that we've designed college campuses, where we try to make them one-stop shops so that kids fall in love with their college and never get to know their town. And so it's easy to leave because they didn't grow that attachment. And that's why in the States we have so many programs around orientation for students that are scavenger hunts in the city to like break that boundary and stop residents from feeling like, oh, the kids are back in town, you know, and oh, here we go. And having that come out in the papers where you send a message to young talent that you really don't want them there. And they hear that. And I can't tell you, I talk to so many college kids and young talent, and you'll get 3 on a stage, one who's going, one who's staying, and one who hasn't decided. And the thing they all talk about is the welcomeness they feel that people ask them to stay. We need you here. And so, yeah, I'm sure when the team wins, I mean, I'm in ACC country, so college is everything. But, you know, why is it when the team wins, they trash my yard? Because they haven't made the connection between, oh, wait, that's this place. So I think you guys are on the right track, but there's a lot of things that if you have to sort of put yourself in their shoes and imagine what they're doing when they're making these huge choices, and clear things like, you know, how well the pipeline works between higher ed and local towns is a no-brainer. How can we coordinate that stuff a little bit better?
We've been lucky enough now to engage with programs at Mount Royal University. I sit on the Dean's Advisory Council now of SAIT to start looking at the education there to be more tech versus, you know, field oil and gas. Yeah. We're trying to create both the educational channel as well as the job channel. And we also now have our 161st and 162nd employee were people that came out of adult with learning disability programs offered by Mount Royal. So that is wonderful to be able to give like that back to the community. And working with the educational institutions is key on finding the path into jobs. They have to come out with the skill set we need, and we have to give them the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes they're already here. You just have to figure out how to keep them here.
You just have to figure out how to keep them, absolutely. And I'm wondering if, Scott, in talking about the innovation ecosystem and that it takes a community to grow a company, and what that means too, that somebody can come to the city or grow up in the city, and it's not that necessarily that they're looking for a job, but they want to create their own job. And how does the community help them do that?
Mary spoke of a number of programs sponsored by the City of Calgary. There's also programs sponsored by the province of Alberta and federally that support innovation and entrepreneurship. The most valuable support I got was from experienced entrepreneurs, though. How do you know when an idea is worth doing? What is the first step? Because you don't discover any of these programs without a significant amount of guidance. That's where all of you come in. You're here because you're familiar with what the city does. Share that knowledge. Encourage those people.
And I know, Amy, you're familiar with the city does, and the city is, you know, that Living Labs experiment initiative, like you put the city in the middle of that innovation ecosystem, and your engagement with entrepreneurs. Have you found them coming to you like very early stage? And
Absolutely.
You know, like, how can the city help me?
Yeah, it's really exciting actually when you've got these innovative, creative people coming to the city and saying, I've got this idea, and now what? And we can actually put ourselves in a position to say, hey, we're going to help you. Not, ooh, that's the big R word, that's the big risk word, and we're a municipal government and we don't do risk. And I think this has been a really big step for us. It's sort of the, never waste a crisis. This is one of those opportunities where all of a sudden we're looking at risk very differently than we have in the past. And so when I talked about opening up data, opening up physical infrastructure for drone testing, helping companies test GPS systems in warehouses and parkades, our film center, testing virtual reality. I mean, these are all things that we may not have been as quick to do in the past. And now we recognize there's a critical need for us to be partners in our community.
So we're rapidly closing in on that 6 o'clock mark that I promised you. So I hope you all held back just one final piece of advice. What is the one takeaway from today's conversation you want to leave with everybody?
You're looking at me first, aren't you?
Well, I'll go this way.
Thank you. Thank you. I think what I would want to say is that from where I sit, I have had very many cities be at this moment that you all are at. And I am telling you that there is a lot of opportunity that I see here that many other cities who faced this crisis did not have. They did not have a local government that said, hey, our job is to get to yes, not enjoy saying no all the time. They didn't have people so in love with the place that they wanted to make this place work for their innovation. They didn't have the quality of life kind of already baked in. And so I want you to feel heartened that this is the next step on your journey as a place. People go through transitions, places go through transitions, and you guys are better set up to make it to the other side than a lot of other places I've seen that still made it to the other side. So be strength-based in how you think about this. Enjoy the small incremental steps. There's no silver bullet. It's not going to be fixed tomorrow. Nothing like that. The Olympics wouldn't have fixed it completely. It's the work. But you guys are set up for success, and so I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
In a strong energy economy, antibiotics never could have happened. I never would have been able to pull talented engineers away from their well-paying jobs. I never would have been able to found manufacturing infrastructure that was willing to prototype things for me. It would have been almost impossible, but when you try to make something out of a crisis, the one thing I learned in all the studying I did about entrepreneurism is timing matters more than anything. The timing was right for us here. The timing, I think, is right for any entrepreneur here. Because the resources exist, the appetite is there, the energy is there. That's been my kind of biggest learning through this experience.
Thank you. Amy?
And I guess I would just say I might not be able to define business friendly for you today, but it's kind of like, you know it when you see it. We're there. We have a building full of people that want this city to succeed fundamentally. And so we want to be part of that, and we want to be an active partner in that. And sometimes that active partnership means getting the hell out of the way, and sometimes it means digging in and doing the hard work to help our partners succeed.
Mary?
I love when you give me the chance to get the last word in. I think it's not dissimilar to what Catherine, Scott, and Amy said, but we really need to emphasize things we learned from places like Denver and Pittsburgh and St. Louis, which is an occupational hazard for me. It requires patience. And because there isn't a silver bullet, that we have to be patient with ourselves. So, we have to ensure that we're building this talent pool. We have to make sure the innovation ecosystem is working. We have to make sure we have a business-friendly opportunity, and we have to really think big and bold about what this place is going to be. And that's why I'm so encouraged by, projects like the Rivers and Entertainment District, because all of those things have to be firing on all cylinders in order for us to come out of this stronger than we've entered into it. So, and I am personally completely optimistic that we will do that.
Thank you. Well, it's been an honor to be part of this process today. Catherine, Scott, Amy, Mary, thank you so much.
Thank you, Court.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I'm sorry we've run out of time. We can't do the draw. So,
So on that note, see ya. Two very quick things to say. Firstly, on your way out, there will be vouchers for, I think it's a 25% discount on our business class on the 787, so please grab a voucher. Secondly, we have a very extensive network which includes the most recently severely maligned city of Waterloo. So I do wish to point out I in no way endorse the comments of the panel with respect to Waterloo.
do you have to be here to get the prize? I think
Oh, yes,
you have to be here to get the prize,
prize.
guys, so your odds are greatly increased.
All right, and the first winner, which I don't have my glasses on, so
Cameron Wallace. Cameron, are you here?
Oh,
Guess you're not going to Barcelona.
or Waterloo.
Colin Jackson.
totally busted.
Love this.
Maybe we aren't giving these away.
Yeah.
Robin Buse. Oh, no, I'm kidding. Arlie. One name only.
It's like Cher.
Yeah, Madonna.
Yeah. Oh.
Good.
Woo!
Should I wait for him to come down to the other one?
Yeah, let's keep going. We're just going to keep going. Come on down.
Come on down, I'll just bow Levi. Right.
Great, and this one is Stephen Hobbs.
You want to win too?
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Westjet comes to North Carolina.
It's gotta feel. Joan Wolfe from Mount Royal University.
Yay!
Come on down! That's great.
She not here?
Did you still want to say something?
She left.
What?
All right.
This is amazing.
Okay,
just
who's
one
still
more.
here?
Just one more. We'll phone.
Bring your card up to the front.
All right, come on, guys. This is crazy. Shelley Vandenberg.
Yeah, but somebody did that the last time too.
Shelley, are you here?
Yes.
Yay! Great job. Did you want to say something? No, you're good?
Should I take the school question
Oh,
question?
sorry.
Thank you all for coming to this event today. I really hope above and beyond anything that we've inspired you to lean in a little bit to support entrepreneurs like Scott and to support our organization and our mandate. I hope you've made some new friends, and I hope more importantly than all that you fell in love with Calgary a little bit more today. So we'll look forward to being in touch with you. Please come to our next event, Economic Outlook in October, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.